It's that time again. It's the podcast that takes your personal and professional life to a whole new level. Whether you're selling a product, selling a service, or selling yourself, one thing is for sure. You're always selling for life. Welcome to another installment of the Selling for Life podcast, sponsored by Conequip Parts, a world of parts with a personal touch. This podcast is about more than just selling stuff, more than about even selling yourself. We think if you stick around, you'll get a lot out of it. And this is episode 33. My name is Steve, and I'm here with Conequip owner Al Alexander. Al, how art thou?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
In fact, I was just selling myself. And guess what I was doing?
What?
I was in a meeting.
That's one thing about Conequip is you guys are always meeting about stuff. Seems like you're in a meeting about 90% of the time anyway. Doors are always closed. Things are going on behind the scenes. Makes us other guys really squirrely and wondering what's going on.
Ooh.
Okay, meetings. We all have them, from meeting with your employer, staff, and clients about work-related tasks to meeting with your spouse and kids about stuff like vacation plans and homework. Meetings are an essential part of life. Meetings are so important, most companies have at least one a day. I know here at Conequip we have about a dozen every day. Some of the meetings are about upcoming meetings, meetings about meetings, and meetings about the meetings that we're going to be talking about meetings. So a meeting can have a direct effect on productivity. An effective meeting will lead to an idea or plan communicated properly. A bad meeting can leave people confused, and that's not what we want. So to talk about this subject, we are joined by Adriana Girdler. Ms. Girdler is the president of Cornerstone Dynamics, is one of Canada's foremost business productivity specialists, an entrepreneur, professional speaker, has been on many things such as TED Talk, Cyrus, I can never say that.
Serious. Absolutely. I'm serious.
Sirius XM, CBC, I don't own it, and is armed with a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. Ow! That sounds dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you very much for joining us.
Be careful. You don't want to meet me in a dark alley.
Hi-ya! So what exactly is a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt?
It is a designation for someone who has reached the pinnacle of efficiency methodology. So it actually encompasses, I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek because I think everyone has it in them. So really, Lean and Six Sigma are two separate efficiency methodologies that have been around for a very long time, actually, since the 40s and the 50s. Lean was its own entity that Toyota created after World War II, and GE created Six Sigma in the 50s. And then just over the years and time, we've heard Lean manufacturing in different renditions, and now the hot button is to bring them together and then call it Lean Six Sigma. But it is a very systematic way of doing it. As a Master Black Belt, I've been doing this for over 20 years, so I'm considered like a sensei. So I train a lot of people, and I guide them in the process because I not only know the education of it, but I've executed on tons of projects. And that's what my company does, is we execute all these efficiency, internal improvement ways of working.
Ooh, I like it. Miss Miyagi.
Yeah, I will not be going for that master's black belt, that's for sure. But that's really impressive. So we're talking about meetings today, and you've got a great video up on your YouTube page about some tips there. We're gonna attack this from two different angles. One, for the people going to a meeting for a company they work for, or maybe clients or whatnot. We'll start with that, and then we're going to go to the other side where you have employers or leaders trying to put together a meeting for somebody. So let's start with the person that's going to a meeting. When it comes to employees, what are some important meeting tips?
Prepare. I mean, I run so many meetings for clients, and that's something that I find on a personal level is a little bit frustrating. Is I give pre-work for a reason, because we have a lot to get through in a very short period of time, and people don't come prepared. So the pre-work was not read, or the activities weren't done, and that makes it very difficult, because what happens is you have to have a second or third meeting when you could have probably got everything done in the first meeting. But that's a culture issue when people don't come prepared.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I would like to know, once you're in a meeting, how much does the person really need to participate? Is it important, or is it more important maybe just to listen, or is it kind of like is there a balance there?
Yeah, it depends on the type of meeting. So there's different types of meeting. If it's a brainstorming type session where we really need to be creative, maybe do some resolution to an issue, or we have to come up with a new strategy, and everyone is there because they're a subject matter expert, then there's an expectation that everyone should participate. And you should be throwing ideas out there, because the more quantity you have, you can filter through in order to get your quality. Mm-hmm. So that's really important, is the type of meeting. But there's other meetings, which I don't consider a meeting. Like, information is really not a meeting. It's kind of more of an information session. But a lot of people will do updates or information in meetings. And I think that's where we get into trouble a lot in the corporate world, is I think we have a lot of meetings because we're using them ineffectively and we're using them in the wrong way.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of drawing out, like you said, an instructional meeting that could be sent over email or in a video or something of that nature. Absolutely, or in a really good training document. Not to say, like, I love live training sessions, and those to me are very important, because training is the first thing that gets cut, and it's the most important thing for sustainment. So if companies ever want to know why things aren't working, take a look. Did you cut your training? But sometimes they use things inappropriately. So a lot of times information in the updates, like you're in a project and you're just finding out what everyone's action item is, you should not be doing that in a meeting. We have so much technology. Use the technology to set it up where people can update within the tool. Then you, as a project manager or facilitator or whatever your role is as a leader, you can then look at it and then from that perspective get the information. So it's a two-way street. You help out the participant, but the participant helps out as well by giving the information. So when you come to a meeting, you're really there to resolve. That's what you want to use meetings for. Mm-hmm.
This question is almost embarrassing to ask, but as a person that goes to a meeting, I feel like I need to bring a pen or a pad of paper or something. Is that really necessary these days when you have technology like we were just speaking about, cell phones and whatnot? What's kind of like almost the etiquette there?
It's interesting. I've done a few videos on etiquette for meetings, for technologies, for cell phones, and I wish it was so clear-cut in black and white and this very clear line of distinction, but it's not, and I'll tell you why it's not. Because there's some really good technological tools out there, which you need to have your phone and your computer, and you need people on it, and they're great brainstorming tools. And I've been in meetings which are awesome at using technology. But the problem with technology is when you don't use them the way they're supposed to be used in order to get information at your meeting and a way to brainstorm and that be inclusive and have everyone participate, is then people then text other people, they're reading other emails that doesn't pertain to the meeting, and all of a sudden everyone's, their whole attention span goes out the window, and then people don't remember what they say or what they agree to, and then the meeting becomes inefficient. So it's up to the facilitator.
But they're getting the high score on Fortnite, so...
Yeah, I know. But and here's the thing too. I love pen and paper. I think there's something really creative and magical about putting in a pen and paper and having cursive writing.
Oh, well,
it just allows for ideas to flow.
Yeah, Al is like that. He likes to have pen and paper. I
love that.
Right. Oh my goodness, you're totally lying right now. I can't.
No.
Paper. No, for me, paper like freaks me out. Like the feel of paper.
Write stuff down. Why aren't you guys writing stuff down?
For you, but I'd rather use my phone.
Oh, all right.
I actually type faster than I can write on my phone, and I'm in every meeting with my phone, like taking notes. And people, I'm always prefacing the meeting like, "Hey, I'm pulling my phone out. Oh, okay. I'm going to be taking notes on my phone." Just
Which is cool to
but
do.
I feel
that's
bad.
Awesome to notify people that. Well, here's a little trick that I tell companies all the time. You should have 2 screens in every organization, 2 screens, 2 projectors, however you want to do it. And I actually had a company who took my suggestion, and I still do a lot of work for them, and it's awesome because you put on one screen the PowerPoint presentation, because usually in meetings or PowerPoint presentations or you're presenting something. But then the secondary screen is usually the action item, because here's the one thing. I hate minutes. Can't stand them. I think they're a waste of time. Nobody reads them. And if you're really together in a meeting, it's usually because you've created a project or you're trying to execute something. It's a strategy. So, you have someone who has ownership of it. So that person who has ownership should have an action on this. The only thing you should collect are action items and agreements, and those agreements turn into action items. So what is it that we're doing? So one screen just has that. So as you're talking, it's being collected by the person who's been designated as that person minute taker, right? Or action item taker. And then that way, everyone put their device down. You're still using technology, but you're doing it in a way that everyone can still see what's going on, really engage and participate. And it's quite impactful. And then no one can say they didn't know. And you're actually getting the information. Everyone can see it. And if they don't agree with what's being said, they can change it. But even more importantly, make sure you get a responsibility and due date. People forget that. They'll take actions, but no one knows it. And there's no due date.
I love that.
Never gets done.
And then you could take that and maybe email everybody so they have a copy of it or something.
Absolutely. Or I'm a big Microsoft Teams gal. You can put it on Microsoft Teams and you can put it in Microsoft Planner and it just gets sent to them that way or however you want to do it.
Awesome.
There's lots of tools and technology.
We've naturally transitioned a little bit here to the owners and leaders side, manager side of the meetings. And what are other ways that they can maximize the time they have with people that they're trying to reach with their message?
It's, I think the biggest complaint I hear and difficulty as well. It's like it's a double-edged sword, is people say there's not enough time to prepare for meetings because sometimes the speed of things are happening so fast. So as a leader, you really want to be cognizant of what you're trying to do. And when you do that, you got to prepare. And giving someone an agenda the night before where they actually have action items on it is not fair, but it happens all the time. And then people wonder why. People are either upset or the content wasn't as good. Why? Because they're scrambling the night before to get it all done because you gave out that action item really, really late. So when you start to have rules and guidelines to say no action, agenda has to go out 3 days before, that's a lot of work for a meeting facilitator. So you really got to start being thoughtful. But that's important because you don't want to have a meeting for everything.
Right, yeah.
So you want to be really specific what the meeting is. And sometimes your agenda item should just be one thing. We're resolving this problem.
Wow, I love it. That's a really good insight into that. I'm thinking of myself, and I want to publicly apologize to everyone to giving the action items half an hour before the meeting.
Half an hour before.
Yep.
Listen, we're all guilty of it, myself included. But I preface it because, I'm even working on stuff right now that I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the team has to take a look at this project charter. We've been talking about it. It's been 2 weeks in the making. But because of our kickoff is happening on the Thursday of next week, the steering committee needs to see it on Tuesday afternoon, but I still need the team to finalize everything, right? Because I'm a big believer in that kind of, collaborative way of working because it ensures sustainability. And I'm like, I talked to one of the steering committee members who's the senior executive, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to get you pre-read. I'm so sorry.
Oh, man.
That's just how it goes.
So what you're saying is, what you're saying is, me just letting everyone I ever work with know that I'm kind of an improv, on the spot, decisive person. So I apologize ahead of time. It's probably not good enough to. So no, but seriously,
one item at least.
Yeah, I know. So what are the key areas, like you would say, 3-5 things to a successful meeting?
It's a good question. And I would say you need to look at meetings in 3 buckets, I like to say: preparation, actual meeting execution, and post-meeting. So if you look at meetings in that way and you duplicate them and standardize them and the repeatability and reliability, R&R, right? This is the quality of background of me coming out now. It makes a huge difference. So in your prep, you want to make sure you have your agenda. You want to make sure you have you thought it through. Why are you even having this meeting? Like I always say, if you put a meeting invite, it should have an objective in it. Even if you don't have an agenda item just yet, you can say agenda to follow, but your objective should dictate whether you're doing it or not. And the gift you can give because you're preparing is, do I even really need this meeting? So if the objective is to give people an update, well, then right away you should know right there that should not be a meeting. I can do it in many other formats.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I like that.
So that's huge. Execution is a really important part. Do you have your PowerPoint? Are you very clear? Do you need exercises? What are you trying to do? Brainstorms? Or do you have your exercises in play? Do you have your 2 screens? Is your action item list up so that you can start collecting things on the fly? Because you know how many meetings I've been in, which hurts me when I'm not the facilitator and I'm listening, and I hear like 20 action items that have just been called out and no one has written them down. They're talking about them. No one wrote them down. And I know it's not going to get done. So you lose out on those opportunities. So doing that, and then last but not least is the follow-through, is sending them out and monitoring them. So who's going to be following up to make sure they got done?
Gotcha. Okay.
So even just that is huge. And if you can, wash, rinse, and repeat with that, that is pretty, you'll be awesome. You'll be on your way to being a meeting star.
I love the formula. And in the 3 buckets, I was just telling Steve before we started, Boy, I hope she puts it in like really an easy format that it can help me directly. And I love the number 3. It works for me.
1, 2, 3. It's just 1, 2, 3.
So
prep, execute, post.
So a postmortem is definitely necessary then. Postmortems are integral to the whole process.
Yeah. You know what? It depends. I use them heavily in projects, and I just don't use them at the end of a project. I use them throughout the life cycle of it, because I think it's at a major milestone to do a postmortem. You really want to learn from it. I've seen companies and people and organizations do postmortems, and they come up with this list of lessons learned, and here's what we're going to do better next, and no one implements them. So why do it?
Yeah.
So do it, but use it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the distinguishing factor is a lot of people do it, but they don't use it. So like, didn't we just do a postmortem on this? And we said we weren't going to do this, but yet we're repeating the exact same thing. Isn't Albert Einstein's definition of insanity doing trying to get the same, doing different things, but getting the same outcome, like, or whatever, a flip, I can't remember.
No, absolutely.
Something like that.
You're right.
Yeah. Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, that was a lot of great information, a lot of great tips. We were speaking here with Miss Adriana Girdler, president of Cornerstone Dynamics. We really appreciate you coming on, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for reaching out to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome ideas. And what we'd like you to do now is just tell us where our listeners can go and find you.
CornerstoneDynamics.com and myvisualvision.com are the two websites I own. The CornerstoneDynamics.com is the main one.
Okay.
I also have a YouTube channel, Adriana Girdler. So if you go on YouTube, lots of tips and tricks there for the professional world and stuff from beginners all the way to more experienced people, looking at things from all perspectives to get better. I have some cool resources on my website too. A lot of great information, knowledge-based things. I also have a store there as well that has some tools and techniques that can help organizations be more effective and efficient.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll, of course, post this on our Twitter page and Facebook.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, Adriana.
I'll do my bit as well on my end with your podcast, which I think is awesome.
Okay, awesome. Well, we'll let you get back to that meeting.
Yeah. Thanks, Adriana.
Have a great day, gentlemen.
Thanks.
You
God
too.
bless. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was a good interview. Let's go through some points here, Al, to what also makes for a productive meeting, a little bit of review and maybe some other points. One of the big things about a meeting in the first place is you have to ask a question. Why are you having a meeting in the first place?
Exactly. What's the point, Steve?
So stay focused on what you're doing. What are some other tips, Al, that can help those out there listening that might need a little help with their meetings?
Well, I would say you kind of have to determine what kind of meeting it is.
Okay.
Because certain meetings you're going to have involvement from, a collaborative type of thing. You're going to have meetings that are just kind of instructional. You just got to know what kind of meeting it is so you can guide everybody.
Right.
You can't let just, everyone just take the rails.
Mm-hmm.
So the key is keeping kind of a beginning and end, keeping to, like you said, what's the point, having some control or a moderator. But then I really feel certain meetings, you have to have an openness where people can completely approach each one in the room safely sharing their opinion without being, kind of berated almost.
Mm-hmm. Also, one that I like that you tend to do, and I think it's just part of who you are, but you like to make people laugh. Tell me about that.
Oh, thanks.
Why do you make people laugh in a meeting? What's the point? Are we in there to just have fun? Is it supposed to be? Are you a clown? Are you there to amuse us?
Yes.
Why do you make people laugh?
I think life is entertaining, and when you laugh, it's like medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully it releases some endorphins, gets your mind working, so you're in the right state, and you're less defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I want collaboration. I want conflict. You won't be open to share and or be part of the meeting as much if you don't have that, that's that open sense.
Right.
I think laughter opens it up.
Okay. Other tips when you're holding a meeting?
Stories.
Okay.
Stories teach. You ever heard of the indigenous people of America called the Indians?
Yes.
They didn't write their history down. What did they do?
They told stories.
Stories.
Yes.
No, it really matters.
Yes. So sharing an anecdote, something that probably would put the theme or the focus of the meeting into something that they can see played out in a story, I would imagine.
Yeah, I usually use personal stories so that people connect to me. You know, it's kind of like self-disclosure. You're kind of relating to people. Again, lowering the defenses, because I'm always selling. And even if I'm selling my idea, or I'm selling the idea that you're going to share, and it's going to be a beneficial thing, mutually exclusive type of thing, it's all about like opening people up. So, you know, that's why I do a lot of personal type of stories.
I think one of the other big things is really just to stick to your start and end times. I've been in too many meetings where they're definitely going too long, and you start kind of getting redundant and going around in circles. Never here, of course. It's always been somewhere else. But stick to your start and end times, because the people that you have there, they've got, of course, a job to do, and they need to, like our guys, want to get back out on the floor and get on those phones. What do you think is a good, I mean, obviously different meetings call for different amounts of time, but what would you say for an average meeting, Al, is a good amount of time to spend?
30 minutes.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
You know, another book I read, something about meetings, Death by Meeting, I think it was. They had kind of like, they associated it with like TV shows. Because obviously the media outlets have figured something out. And what's a sitcom length?
Okay, yeah, 22 minutes.
What is the length of a longer storied sitcom? Kind of like, what do they call that? A series?
That I don't know.
An hour.
Okay.
And then what's a movie length?
Like 2 hours.
Yeah. So like they kind of associated with. So there's different levels. Different meetings would have different involvement.
Right.
And so that was a really neat way of bringing some psychology to it.
Okay, yeah.
That have been figured out by other people.
All right.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, Al, that brings us now to our inspirational message of the day. And what would you like to share with people out there, whether it has to do with meetings or not?
What's the point, people? Why are you doing stuff?
Yeah. Why are you doing stuff? This is a reoccurring theme with this show, and I appreciate that, because you really have to know what you are on this planet for, and you can always pursue that. Pursue why you're here. Does that sound good, Al?
Yeah, the genuineness that comes right over and fills over the cup, and it just overflows on everybody else, even in a meeting.
Yep,
we love them. And I love you, Steve.
I love you too, Al. Like, you have no idea how much I love you. Every time I get paid, I just think how much I love you. Okay, so that's it for this installment of the Selling for Life podcast. You can check out our website at sellingforlife.com. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook too. So remember, whether you are trying to sell your employees at a meeting to trust the process, or you're trying to convince your wife you really did do the dishes, one thing is for sure, you are always selling for life.